Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Foreign Objects. In today's video, we're going to go over WrestleMania 3, which is said to be one of the best of all time and definitely set the stage for the future of the business, especially after the poop sandwich that was WrestleMania 2. They did bounce back on this one. They clearly bounced back on this one. We're just going to run down the card, but before we do so, I think we're going to start this new thing where we're going to rank the Manias as we go. So we're only going to rank the first three. We're not going to go any further than that, and we'll continue this as we go forward. So, Mike, just question to you: how would you rank WrestleManias 1, 2, and 3?
From top to bottom, 3, 1, and I know you can't see how far down my hand's going, but we put 2 down there, and I feel like it's going to stay down there for a while. I thought WrestleMania 3 I thought it was fun, and I thought it was. I had a couple of WrestleMania moments. And I thought it was a fun time watching it. WrestleMania 2 was a chore. WrestleMania 1, I thought the wrestling was better in this one. 1 had more moments. I could see it being neck and neck, but I gotta give the edge to 3.
Okay, so I think consensus 2 is by far the worst. So let's not even start that conversation. I actually liked WrestleMania 1 over WrestleMania 3. I really did. I thought WrestleMania 3 started off okay, but there was a stretch where it was double count out, disqualification, distracting finish, distraction finish, disqualification. And it kind of bothered me a little bit. And in the midst of those disqualifications, one of them involved midgets. So that chunk of the show like threw me off so badly that I just have to give it to 1, because I thought 1 was actually really good, 1 through however matches they had, 10 or 11 matches.
I thought 3, the thing is, so 3 is 3 hours. It easily could have been $140, maybe
True.
even less than that. And WrestleMania 1 was at about 2 hours, 2:15.
That's a good point.
But they needed that time. They had a bunch of stuff to get through. Obviously, you can always cut. But, the WrestleManias back then, as we're kind of going through this and watching it, they're not as overstuffed in the sense of, there's not a ton of backstage goofiness. I mean, they'll interview someone backstage, but they're not, first of all, there's no commercials, like, during it. They're not, like, getting, like, a commercial with, like, the Bella Twins or anything like that. It's more, it's just the match, and then the interview, and then the match, and the interview, and the match, and the interview. So it's just wrestling all the way through. So it's a little easier to digest. It doesn't feel the same kind of 3 hours that it feels today.
So I totally agree, to the point where when I was watching WrestleMania 3, I asked myself in the middle of it, like, when do I go to the bathroom or get a beer or do anything? It's just one match after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But I think it's a good point, adding another hour to the show. If you added another hour to WrestleMania 1, who knows if they had 1 hour of just caca like this show had. But It threw me off. It threw me off. I didn't really get invested back into the show till the Hart Foundation tag match.
A lot of that, I always wonder how much of it is, as we're watching it now, we watch it with obviously a different eye than people watched it back then. And I wonder, me and you see Bret Hart come out, and we say, oh man, it's 22-year-old Bret Hart, or whatever. And I don't know. And I think back then, they were the tag team champions. They were still hot, and they were facing the British Bulldogs, who were hot, and they had that 6-man tag going. So I don't think it was a big change. I think the Bobos back then are still Bobos to you and I watch it. But we do have the added benefit of thinking, wow, Bret Hart and the British Bulldog in the same match. When back then it was probably like, oh, let's look at these young guys go or something.
Right. No, I totally agree. I take it back. I didn't get back reinvested. The Piper match was before that, but we'll get into that match because holy Roddy Piper. So let's just run through the card real quick. I thought the show started with a really good tag match. It was the Candyman Connection defeating Bob Orton and Morocco. I thought it was a good match. It was a perfect way to start a WrestleMania, especially then where there wasn't a lot of dipsy-do dunkaroos within matches. It was just solid wrestling. I thought it was like a really good – it went 5 minutes and 37 seconds, but I thought it was good action. Very standard traditional tag match with a lot of action. And a common theme with the 80s I've noticed so far, not a ton of rest holds.
I like it a lot. We actually see kind of them transition out of some of the rest hold era a bit, obviously, as we get closer to Savage and Steamboat and all that. what I noticed about this match and some of the other tag matches and some of the matches we watched, you referenced this I think before, but they're not. It's not like they're building this whole match toward the hot tag for the faces.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit the ring, and the faces really dominate that match the whole way through. I mean, Morocco and Orton kind of got, I don't want to say squashed, but they didn't get any offense in it at all. It was like 85-15 probably.
Right.
You know, and it's different than today. Now you're almost guaranteed that the match is going to be a heel domination leading to the hot tag, and then whatever happens after that happens, and it's this crazy finish. I like how many imaginative finishes there were. You were saying how it's DQ count out. All the wonky finishes. I don't love the ambiguity of it, but I do like. You never knew when the finish was coming. It's not like someone standing in the corner bouncing their foot ready for like switching music, and then it's going to come. It's going to be a meet, and then he's going to reverse into a pedigree or something. It's more like it can happen at any time. Every match tonight, I thought almost every match, you never knew what was happening, and I think they wrestled a different way. And this is one of those matches too, where it just ended, and it was good because it's unpredictable.
Yep. No, I totally agree. It seems to be a trend through the first 3 Manias as well. Next match, which was kind of disappointing because I was trying to get into it. I do like when guys have the same finisher type gimmick and they try to face each other. I thought it's a really old school, but I like those matches. I don't know why. I've always been a sucker for them. But why they were trying to defend Billy Jack Haynes instead of Hercules, it just blows my mind. So it's Hercules Hernandez, who is just a specimen, comes down like jacked through the gills with the chains around his neck. Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Thinking he's really Hercules. I didn't know I don't know, but his backstage interview, he said something about just like 1,000 years ago, and he defeated the gods of Greece or whatever. I'm like, I didn't know his gimmick was he was actually Hercules. I thought he was just Jack.
But man, like this guy, if he looked like he was going to get pushed, if you just watched that backstage promo into just the entrance, you would think this is going to be he's going to kick this guy's butt. It's the second match of the card. It's time for a squash, time for a beatdown, and he's going to go over. And he still went over. This was one of the matches that ended in a double countout, which I wish ended in Hercules actually winning clean with the full Nelson.
Well, it's funny. First of all, I can't watch that match and not think of. I always thought Chris Masters was such a specimen and a stud in the 2000s. And I thought he had a little bit more of a career to go. But I like it too. I like when they have two guys, especially I like when I see like two big guys go at it in the sense of, it's an immovable object, kind of unstoppable force thing, which I know they use later on. But it's more just like, how is one guy going to get over on another jacked guy? Like when they're both just jacked guys, like who's going to find the advantage? Where are they going to find it? But they didn't exploit that at all. There was no. There was these two powerhouses going at it, but there was nothing interesting about it. I thought they kind of missed an opportunity, like you said. And it's funny, again, watching in retrospect, maybe when you're there, maybe when you're watching it live in 1987, you think, man, this Billy Jack Haynes, he's a hot up-and-comer and he's going to be great. We watch it, we think, who's this yo-yo who's coming in here looking like a fool? This must be his only match. And I don't know what came of him before or after, but he was a loser. I mean, you can see from every aspect he's a loser.
I totally agree. Match 3, I don't want to spend too much time on. This is the Midgets, King Kong Bundy, Lord Littlebrook, question mark. I have nothing.
I do. So Hillbilly Jim gave one of the worst, maybe the worst Hall of Fame speech when he made it to WWE Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Hillbilly Jim also is the worst male Hall of Famer, I think, in the Hall of Fame. A lot of people say Coco Beware. I think it's Hillbilly Jim. The worst overall is Beth Phoenix for me. But seeing him there, and I texted you this when I turned on the match, that's Braun Strowman if Braun Strowman was in the 80s. I mean, thank God Braun Strowman's where he is today. See, the look, the physique, the athleticism. I mean, he actually, it's stunning. It's too bad for him that he got stuck with some goofy gimmick because, and he was back then, because the guy's like, I don't know how big he was. He must be like 6'6", 6'7", like ripped out of his mind. He
was a big boy.
Yeah, and he can move it. So anyways, what are we doing? 6-man midgets. I did read that King
Just
Kong Bundy was not supposed to drop the elbow on or 50-year-old midget guy, and ended his career. But I don't know how true that is.
we'll just run with it. We don't need great sources on this show. Next, we have I can't believe either of these people are in there, but Harley Race coming down with the Fabulous Moolah and Heenan defeating the Junkyard Dog. If anything, Harley Race actually sells well. It's entertaining. Very exasperated, his movements when he sells, and he exaggerates everything, which I thought was entertaining for what it is because he has a goofy gimmick and everything. Junkyard Dog gets a win. Oh no, he gets a loss. He's been getting hosed mania after mania. That's really all I got on that match. Outside of like the fans, outside of Junkyard Dog getting hosed 3 manias in a row, like the fans are behind him all 3 manias so far.
Yeah, that's why he's there. Harley Race. It's when I was watching this match, I thought to myself, Harley Race is a legend. I mean, he's one of the greats of all time. I think he's Triple H's favorite. And he's one of the true great wrestlers of all time, one of the great champions ever. He must sit there thinking, what the hell am I doing with my career right now? When he's in there and Junkyard Dog's doing the things that he's doing, it's a 4-minute match. And I'm thinking, I know it's at the tail end of his run, but there's nothing more they can do. I mean, I know that, they got 3 hours and they're trying to fit a dozen matches in, plus interviews and everything. I just wish, and that's on me. I mean, I've got the network. Maybe I should turn on some more Harley Race wrestling and check it out from beforehand, the NWA stuff and all that. But I just thought, kind of disappointed. I finally saw a Harley Race match, and I'm like, this is gonna be great. And it was kind of crap. I did like he did this headbutt kind of off the apron onto the floor, just kind of a belly flop onto the floor that bumped guys in the face.
Yeah, no, I actually like that move as well. Harley definitely comes from the old school, heels are going to sell the entire match and then bust out the win somehow at the end. Yep. And I knew that going in, but that's basically how he worked the match as well. Okay match. It just didn't do too much for me. The next match really did nothing. It was the Dream Team, which is Brutus's Barber's Piece. Well, he's not the barber yet.
I'm perfectly fine giving this the midget treatment.
Yeah. So next on that, now let's just go over. So that ended in a distraction finish. Now, match number 6, and you can really tell that the crowd was quiet between matches 2 through 5, because the second Piper's music hit to come out, that place exploded to the point where A, they are totally sold on Roddy Piper, and B, they were just so desperate to cheer for something that, thank God, here comes Piper, and it just made that feeling go even further. This dude, I don't think there are words to really describe how good of a professional wrestler Roddy Piper is.
Unbelievable. So we've watched 3 manias now. He's a huge part of all of them. He's obviously in the main event of the first one, and he does an outstanding job. He gets really dealt a crap sandwich in the second one, and tempers kind of flare, but he's the main event, one of the 3 main events. And in this one, he's, like you said, he's what starts the match. He really started the show. He comes out, he gets the pop of the night outside of anything that Hogan and Andre did. Yeah. And it was a great match, and he was into it. You could tell that he thought, I don't know if he thought it was really going to be his last match or what. They built it as a retirement match. He went to Hollywood for a bit. In credit to, I thought it was a good match all around, and that takes 2 guys oftentimes. Yeah. I thought Adorable Adonis was outstanding. I think
I like the gimmick.
I like the gimmick. What an athlete for that size. Right. I think he really did a great job. And of course, Jimmy Hart is doing a great job too. But Piper was the highlight of that. And what he did in the ring, his energy, his excitement, it's tough to put a measure on that.
It really is. It really is. And you hear the old adage, like, do you know somebody as he's walking through the airport that he's a professional athlete? Piper is just every last word of that phrase. I'm incredibly impressed. Like, I always knew that he was good and he was great on the mic and everything, but man, like, he's so far through the 3 WrestleManias, he's the best professional wrestler on the roster through 3 Manias.
It's a really good point to bring up, and maybe it'd be really fun to do a Piper show someday or something. But it's like you said, he's the best through this 3-year stretch. He never holds the belt, never holds the major championship. But everything that he got, every position he was put in, you could tell how much he had earned it and how much the fan adulation was organic. He didn't have to have the main event match against Andre the Giant, and that's not to take away from Hogan. It's not Hogan's fault that he was in that position or anything. But it was just Piper being Piper, and the place exploded for him. His raw energy in every single WrestleMania so far, the ad libs that he does, the things that he's just talking trash in the ring, every body movement he does, you can tell it's just something very specific to the style of wrestling that he does. Outstanding stuff.
Oh, for sure. So match number 7 of the card, Dangerous Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation with Jimmy Hart. So a lot of people on one corner there versus the British Bulldogs, which is still Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid and Tito Santana. Good 6-way. I think it did exactly what it needed to do right after the Piper match, kind of slowed things down, but put a good wrestling match on for the crowd.
You know, like I said earlier, I thought you look at the names in that match and you're like, man, what a Hall of Fame kind of, bunch of guys. Tito Santana and the Hearts and Bulldogs. I didn't love it. I thought last WrestleMania 2, the British Bulldogs had the match of the night.
Agreed.
And I know that when I looked into it, the reason this was a 6-man match was because Dynamite Kid had suffered a really bad back injury and they need to kind of protect him. So they made it a 6-man match. You couldn't go full throttle. And you can kind of tell I thought the match was lacking a bit. But, so this is the second straight match with Jimmy Hart sitting out there. You talk about a time where managers would come out match after match after match, and they had a roster of guys.
Isn't it wild?
It's really it's kind of cool. Like there were these factions that it wasn't like the Nexus, or it wasn't like DX or whatever. They weren't like super connected, but it's more like when the NWO was sort of everyone knew each other, and they're allies with one another, and they're rivals against the good guys, but they don't really wrestle together. They're not really teammates or anything. They're just colleagues, sort of.
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing. Jimmy Hart has actually one more match in the card after this one, and it makes me feel oblivious towards what a manager meant at that time, because in today's world, you only manage one person. Even though I think the closest thing off the top of my head that's happening right now would be Selena Vega. She has 2 or 3 guys, but Jimmy Hart. Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Hart has a ton of wrestlers under his belt again. Yep.
Excuse me?
Exactly. And yeah, it just makes me really misunderstand what it means to be a manager, because we didn't really grow up with that.
If breaking the fourth wall, I had to put my phone into a charger.
Ooh, it's okay. So I found the bathroom break match. It's actually placed very, very well because it's in front of Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage, and after those matches prior. It's Butch Reed with Slick versus Coco Beware, 3 minutes and 39 seconds. That's enough to urinate, and we're going to move on to the next one. So match number 9 was the Steamboat Savage match, which I've watched before a couple times, and so this would I probably watched it about a handful of times in my life at this point. And it's the best match on the card. It's probably the best match of all 3 Manias. Definitely the best singles. I would still put the British Bulldogs tag match in WrestleMania 2 as one of the best matches performed within the first 3 Manias, but definitely the first singles match that was truly just it was 14:35. It's the longest match in WrestleMania history to date at that point. They gave them time. The only thing why is George Steele out there? Don't need him. But Miss Elizabeth, dime, and she is something else, huh? Like timeless look. Like
any era had the great. It never looked like she was acting. It looked like she was always really genuinely very concerned, very reserved, very
Yeah.
innocent. All that. This match, it's not overrated for me. It hasn't gotten like undue credit over the ages. I mean, you can see seeds of what we see today: fast pace, false finishes, the ref bump, the kind of the chaos at the end. George Steele like didn't mind in this match, and I got to say the commitment to the bit from George Steele. Every time was on that guy, he's got the face, he's shaking the head, he looks like an orangutan. Everything he did, I thought, carrying Steamboat back to the really cool little mini ring that brings guys to and fro. Celebrating this team. I thought George Steele had a great show. Again, Elizabeth had a great performance. Just her presence really adds so much to Savage's character. But I think the match itself, listen, it could stand up today, and I think there's a difference between pace and speed in a match. Today's matches are really fast. That one wasn't necessarily fast, but it had pace. There's always something happening, and everything meant something. Each move and each little segment of the match was kind of purposeful. And you can tell, Savage, I had written out this match, and he was notorious for writing out his matches and for going line by line. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to meticulously plan it. And back then, guys were calling him on the spot a lot more often, including Steamboat. And so you can really tell that Savage had his way, that he knew the business. And he's talking about two guys who are such athletes. I mean, I don't know that we've seen someone yet, or that we will see someone after until really modern times, maybe even like until we get to Michaels or even after that, of just a guy who is physically built to be a wrestler in Steamboat. He's so, you can tell how well conditioned he is. He has great size. He's not overly big, but he's certainly not small. He's got a huge chest, and he's athletic. I think he's a prototypical wrestler from a physical standpoint. And Savage, you're talking about one of the top 20 guys to ever do it. So what an awesome match. I thought it was really cool. I could watch that match over and over and over and over.
Yeah, one thing popped in my head while I was watching this, and then watching the entire show, and even all three Manias at this point, and almost extending what you just said, like every match, every move, and every segment makes sense. Like I feel like I watch wrestling today sometimes. I'm like, what? Like, no, that didn't make sense to me. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing X if it doesn't get us to Y and Z? Like it does. Some aspects of wrestling today are kind of baffling, and they treat us like idiots. While every single match that I've watched so far, it's at least sensible, and I truly understand what they were trying to accomplish, whether they succeeded or failed.
I hate to sound like a purist when I say they were telling a story, but they were. And back then, I think every match was. And today, I don't know if they're doing that. I think they're trying to get from spot to spot, or they're trying to get just to the finish, because I don't think that Vince or that the powers that be have enough respect for the viewers' attention span. And maybe they're right, with how today is different. But there'll be a time in a match where a guy will be kind of catching his breath, and the heel will just be stomping on him. He'll walk away and pose and come back and stomp on him. And it's like a 25, 30 seconds of the match when nothing happens. And there's no reason for it. It's just a break, And I agree. I thought I couldn't say a bad thing about this match. I love all four people involved. I thought the in-ring work was great. I think the storyline going into it is a lot of fun when they're kind of showing the really poorly put together kind of preview. It's good stuff. And what Intercontinental, when you're talking about the Intercontinental champions, you're talking about it, man. Savage had it for 15 months. He gives it to Steamboat. It wasn't just a stepping stone. That was back then, because we haven't even been to a WrestleMania yet where Hogan has been the champion. So you're talking about, he was a champion going into WrestleMania 1, and he's the champion leaving WrestleMania 3. And the Intercontinental title at that point, that was it. That was the world championship for a lot of these guys.
Right.
Because they were never taking it off Hogan.
No, that's a good point. Moving on to the next match, which I didn't really understand the finish or why Honky Tonk Man won, but he beat Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake had Alice Cooper, so he had the celebrity, and Jake is again, back-to-back Manias where, man, he moves so well in the ring. It's unbelievable. Decent match. I'm just surprised by the finish. That's all.
It was fun to see, again, guys who they're not A-listers or anything like that today. You don't look in wrestling history and think Jake the Snake or Hunt maybe talk about the greatest wrestler of all time. But they're firm, fun 80s to early 90s Hall of Famers who offer a lot. It was fun to see them go at it. Such different personalities. I don't understand some of the endings to some of these matches where I don't understand really what necessitates a disqualification sometimes. I don't know what I don't know
right.
Throwing a guy over the ropes or slamming or going with them. I don't really understand, and this is I don't understand how a lot of these matches kind of come to a conclusion, or when the announcers are kind of selling it as he should be disqualified. Jesse, he get hit with a deliberate clothesline. And I'm confused. I'm thinking, is Gorilla just being a doofus, or is that something you can be disqualified for back then? So, but like I said, it's WrestleMania. I'm watching WrestleMania from 30 years ago, and I'm seeing two friggin' G's go at it.
Right.
Guys,
that was basically
kind of that. Yeah.
That was basically it. Iron Sheik, Volkov defeating the Killer Bees. Sure.
Yeah, the Killer Bees, huh?
Yeah, sure. I think that was they did a good job deliberately sandwiching that in because the main event's next. But I have nothing to say. Or even though Sheik is legit, I think he deserves all the adulation that he has gotten since his retirement. I mean, I didn't know he was that good. So
on the mic too, and what a body on that guy too, as far as just being a wrestler. Like, you can tell he's such an athlete. Obviously, he was an amateur star. Hacksaw Jim Duggan runs it at the beginning of this when Volkov's singing the national anthem. I thought fairly insensitive from Hacksaw, but I thought it was a good glimpse into what people are really into in 1987 wrestling, because wrestling's at its peak right now. The late 80s was wrestling's peak. WrestleMania 3 probably never got higher. You're talking about 93,000 people allegedly in that place, probably not that many. You're talking Hogan and Andre, and wrestling's popularity at that time probably never got higher. So the crowd is really representative of what people liked back then. When Hacksaw hits the ring and does one of those with the thumb up in the air, with his chest out,
and people loved it.
People ate it up, and I thought that was kind of representative of what people were into back then.
I think back then, and in particular, we're still in an era where Russia is in everybody's mind as like the evil empire, basically, of the world. So, the masses believe that, and if you can get a USA chant going, everybody's in on it. Nowadays, I think the USA chants are incredibly cheesy. I'm just over it, but Vince still tries to play it.
I don't understand them sometimes.
I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Like you had 9/11. I truly understand the USA chants after that. Since 9/11, like unless I'm historically incorrect, I can't think of an event that would really spur me to just like get out of my chair and just start chanting USA.
I know for a fact that that's a massive lie. I think you and I have been blitzed at certain shows where Rusev has been, and we've just kind of, whoever he's facing, it doesn't matter who he's facing. He could be facing Rey Mysterio, but we'd be saying USA, because it's just kind of needing Rusev. But let's move on to the reason we're here.
Yeah, so you have Hogan and Andre the Giant coming down with Bobby Heenan. It's this match I've watched about 3 or 4 times in my life. I watched it again, obviously, clearly here.
Give me a 1 to 10 overall, everything included. Just give me a 1 to 10 on it.
8. I think it's super underrated.
I would. You're gonna think I'm nuts. I'm giving it a 10. It is everything you want in wrestling, and I do love the technical guys. I love the undercard guys. But it's everything that you want in wrestling.
I agree. I don't think you're crazy.
When you're talking about what essentially is Babe Ruth calling his shot, you're talking about the most iconic moment in professional wrestling history. If that's not a 10, what is? I mean, the match itself.
It's fine. I think it's fine. So I'm going to give you.
I would love if we had a dozen people watch this thing, which is probably optimistic, and all of them told us, would you want to sit through this match even today, or would you rather sit through Triple H and Roman Reigns in Dallas? You know, I think it's unbelievable how much. At
Oh
least
my,
this was a 5-minute match or whatever.
no, it was more. It was in double digits.
This match was in double digits.
Double digits. But 1 second, let
Credit.
me just give you some historical perspective on then and now. So this is directly coming from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So the main event between Hogan and Andre is considered one of the biggest matches in pro wrestling history. Correct. The moment when Hogan performed a body slam to Andre is also iconic. Also correct. Now, despite the historic importance, the match was also criticized by the quality. I think that is incorrect. It shouldn't have. Okay, continue. At the time, it received a negative 4-star rating from that nerd, Dave Meltzer, which I don't know why I'm calling him a nerd because I listen to him every morning, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter named it the worst.
Says the two guys in a YouTube video watching
Yeah,
WrestleManias 1 through 35.
that's very true. Yeah. The Wrestling Observer newsletter named it the worst worked match of the year in 2020. 411 Mania gave the match 1 star, stating the match is not good in any way, shape, or form, but is one I completely appreciate and its historical importance. Excuse me. I just don't get it. I think going back to what we just said, I thought the match was fine, and the build is just ridiculous. Like, it's Andre the Giant. I totally understand his mystique and aura whenever he enters the match, and I've never seen him live, right? We've never seen him live. And by live, I mean, like, even growing up, like, we never got to see him enter an arena, right? Even in the early to mid 90s. I can't remember when Andre passed away, but he's undefeated. I even feel the body slam today. Like, I understand why the people went crazy. I understand everything about this match. It was simple. It was easy to understand. Everything made sense. The hype was deserved, and the negative feedback that it gets for its quality, I don't understand.
You know, I'd like to know, is Meltzer the same guy who gave CM Punk and John Cena 5 stars in Chicago? Because it's a good match. It's a fine match, but he's clearly given points for everything around that. You know, the storyline, the atmosphere, everything. And it's deserving of 5 stars when you take that into account. But then how are you going to give negative 4 stars? And what are we doing here comparing stars that Dave Meltzer's giving over 30 years? Like, who really cares? But he's clearly not going to be consistent through that, because the what they were doing back then in 1987, it was not about the match. And I thought Andre gives you everything he can.
Yeah.
I thought Hogan is obviously generally limited as he has been for decades and decades, you know, from our perspective. Now we're watching this again through the lens of, or with the benefit of 30 plus years of history. We see this on the opening credits of every wrestling show that comes in. Hogan slamming Andre and Monsoon, you know, exclaiming about it. He slammed him. Everything about it's great. And Andre now is he's kind of a myth and a legend in really pop culture almost, you know, or at least kind of sports culture. And Hogan's still with us, but he's such a legend and stuff. And you kind of, I think you watch it now and you can appreciate that they were giving everything they can. But if you watch it back then, I don't think you appreciate any less. It didn't sound like the crowd appreciated it any less. So I'm really curious to know kind of who's looking at that match and judging it solely off the work rate that's being done in the ring.
Yeah, I totally agree. Which, again, I go back to, I thought the work was fine. They didn't, granted, it was an easy match, right, in terms of how it was scripted. They didn't have too many moves because of how incapable Andre was to even, I don't know, gosh, even do anything, right? Walk the ring. But going back to everything making sense and everything being believable, I think this is the pinnacle of what a main event should look like, from the build to the two wrestlers to how the match went clean. The match went clean. There was no like uber crazy botch, and somebody goes over clean and the face goes over on a guy who, you know, it's your stereotypical, the heel comes in incredibly hot. He's undefeated, this, that, and the fifth. How's the face going to get over? And the face gets over. I loved it.
You know, Andre's 40. He's coming off major surgeries. Obviously, he's nearing the end of his life. and he's really at the end of his wrestling career. I to watch the documentary that they did on HBO and to see what he did to prepare for that match, just to physically be able to get in the ring. We watch like The Last Ride right now, and I know Taker's 15 years older, but there's really no comparing where Taker is today and where Andre was back then with what Andre was carrying physically. And you see what Taker does to get prepared for a match, and it's grueling, and it makes you really appreciate even more what he gives you, because you know it's everything that he can give you. Andre, what he did to get into that match, which I had read online when I was doing some research on this, was 14 bottles of wine just to get in, just to get into it. Who knows? But just the life choices he had to make, getting the surgery and getting into shape, not shape, but getting just himself physically available to get to that point. It makes you appreciate it more. It makes you appreciate Andre more as really there are people who consider him the greatest of all time. Obviously, he's not the greatest performer of all time in the ring. But that's not the point. And whoever would hold that against him doesn't get the point of wrestling.
Yeah.
And so, it's the birth of, I don't know, the major WrestleMania moments. I mean, we see him in WrestleMania 1 here and there.
Yeah.
But it's really the one where you look at and you think, when you think wrestling, for a lot of people, that's what comes to mind. And I don't think you can say that enough. I think when you think basketball, you might think Michael Jordan doing the switching hands layup, and but when you think of wrestling, this is exactly what you think, and you can't overstate that enough. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, and it's such a great referendum on where wrestling, or how little wrestling has progressed over 30-something years, where sometimes it doesn't matter even today. You can have a bad match, a terrible match, but no one cares, because when Brock Lesnar and Goldberg get into the ring together or whatever, even if they're not going full speed, more recently, it's really, really cool. If Austin ever came back for another match and he couldn't do a damn thing, it would be really, really cool. And so it's fun how timeless wrestling can be sometimes.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I would rather watch this main event over Reigns Triple H in Dallas 100 times over 100, without a doubt. Which that WrestleMania did break the attendance record, the one in Dallas. This one was 90 whatever thousand, supposedly, obviously. So, lasting thoughts about the show? Anything in particular, or maybe a top three up, three down type deal?
I thought Savage was the player of the night. I think he gave you everything in the ring. He gives you everything from a personality standpoint. His promos backstage would today be the best promos, would be the best promos at any time, probably outside of the Attitude Era. I think it's not even close. I think he's better than Flair, and I love Flair. I think what Savage gives you backstage is so organic and so exciting. Fits his character, is so unpredictable, and but still has a great tinge of wrestling to it. It's so fake,
right?
To an extent that it's really cool. Savage was the man of the night. And then, like I said earlier, Piper, and I hate to go just the all-time, just the greats here, but Savage, Piper, who we just spent a ton of time talking about, I'd have to give the other one to Andre. I mean, man, again, what he did to get ready, what he did to he's someone who clearly loved the business and who respected it. Again, you kind of draw parallels to where the Undertaker is right now. I love that he just was there. Also, Heenan pulling double, triple, quadruple duty, including bringing Andre down and really prepping him backstage, kind of getting people pumped to say, this is why this match is important. He does such a great job at that.
Yeah, totally agree with all that. So good show. Definitely one hell of a bounce back from WrestleMania 2. Whatever mistakes that they thought they made in 2, they cleared that up in this show in particular. They went big, and the show definitely came across big. We'll see what happens with WrestleMania 4. We're going to watch WrestleMania 4 and review that. Something must have happened in between WrestleMania 4 and 3, because 3 had 93,173 fans, while WrestleMania 4 was at the convention center in Atlantic City. So I don't know what business decisions were made between 3 and 4, but we will find out. Thanks for watching. If you are, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button if you like this, support the channel, drop a comment down bottom with any questions. Maybe we can answer them for you. we're not experts, but we're nerds that love wrestling. We'll see everybody later.